This is the Whisper Corner, and welcome to a marvellous video all about Ireland. Ireland's a country, but you didn't know that. Anyway, let's begin. People and the culture. It's perhaps a wee bit stereotypical, but this website starts off its description of Ireland's people and culture, talking about how much we consume alcohol and what the main breweries are. But anyway, the Irish consume on average 131.1 litres of beer per year, the second highest per capita consumption after the Czech Republic. Famous Irish breweries include Guinness, Smithwick's from Kilkenny, and Harp Lager. The three most famous symbols of Ireland are the green shamrock, the harp, and the Celtic cross, or the Celtic cross. Halloween traces back its origins to the Gaelic festival of Samhain, a harvest festival held on 31st October to mark the end of summer. Samhain became associated with All Saints, 1st November, from the early Middle Ages, and the two progressively merged over the centuries, creating Halloween. 88% of Irish citizens are nominally Roman Catholic. The Republic of Ireland has one of the highest rates of church attendance in the Western world. Around 45% of regular Mass attendance. The ancestral language of Irish people is Irish Gaelic. Nowadays, 1.6 million people claim a self-reported competence in Irish, but only 380,000 fluent speakers remain. Many Irish names start with Mac or O, which means respectively son of and a grandson of in Gaelic. Since 1981, Slane Concert has been held annually on the grounds of Slane Castle at the initiative of its owner, the 8th Marquess Cunningham. Artists who have performed at Slane include David Bowie, Bob Dylan, Queen, The Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen, Guns N' Roses, R.E.M., Robbie Williams, Bryan Adams, U2, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Madonna, and Oasis. Ireland has won 7 times the Eurovision Song Contest in 1970, 1980, 1987, 1992, 1993, 1994, and 1996, and almost bankrupted the country more than any other country. Dalkey, a suburb of Dublin, is Ireland's Beverly Hills, home to a number of Irish celebrities, such as the authors Maeve Binchy, Roddy Doyle, and Hugh Leonard, the film directors Neil Jordan and Jim Sheridan, as well as several international music figures, including U2 members Bono and The Edge, Enya, Chris de Burgh, and Van Morrison. by the early Irish legend of Aberdac, an evil chieftain who, after being betrayed by his subjects and slain by the hero Catherine, rose from his grave every night to drink the blood of his subjects. Land and geography. Ireland is a snake-free island. Due to its isolation from the European mainland, Ireland lacks several species common elsewhere in Europe, such as moles, weasels, polecats, or roe deer. At a height of 688 meters above the Atlantic Ocean, Achill Island are the second highest cliffs in Europe, after Cape Edinburgh in the Faroe Islands. Phoenix Park in Dublin is the third largest walled city park in Europe, after La Mandria in Turin and Richmond Park in London. It covers 1,750 acres. The Irish National Stud's Japanese Gardens, laid between 1906 and 1910 by Japanese master horticulturist Tasa Ida, are considered the finest of their kind in Europe. They are located in Kildare. The Tara Mine near Navan, County Meath, is the largest zinc mine in Europe and the fifth largest in the world. Science and achievements. Hook Lighthouse is thought to be the oldest working lighthouse in Europe, or possibly in the world. Located at Hook Head in County Wexford, the present structure was completed either in 1172 or in 1245, although the first lighthouse on that spot dates back to the 5th century. The Anglo-Irish physicist John Tyndall, 1820 to 1893, was the first to prove the greenhouse effect, the first to discover why the sky is blue, Tyndall effect, as well as a number of other discoveries about processes in the atmosphere. He was also the first scientist to be referred specifically as a physicist. In 1845, William Parsons, 1860 to 1867, 3rd Earl of Ross, built the Leviathan of Parsonstown, a reflecting telescope of 72 inches aperture. It was the largest telescope in the world until 1917. His youngest son, Sir Charles Algernon Parsons, 1854 to 1931, invented the steam turbine and built the world's first turbine-powered battleship and passenger ship. In 1879, Charles's elder brother, the 4th Earl of Ross, installed a water wheel equipped with a turbine on the River Camcor to provide electricity to Birr Castle and the town, making Parsonstown the first town in the world to be lit by electricity. The astronomer William Edward Wilson, 1851 to 1908, took some of the earliest photographs of the stars, the moon, the sun, and a solar eclipse. In 1889, he became the first person to measure the temperature of the sun, Jarvis Brennan, 1852 to 1932, an Irish mechanical engineer who emigrated to Australia, invented the steerable torpedo in 1874. It was the first weapon in history that could be remotely directed to its target. He later invented the gyroscopically balanced monorail system and the gyroscopic helicopter, which performed the world's first unmanned but controlled helicopter flight. Owing to its strategic position at the western fringe of Europe, Ireland played a decisive role in early long-distance communications with North America. In 1907, Irish-Italian inventor Guglielmo Marconi set up the world's first permanent transatlantic radio station in Derrickmilla Bog near Clifton in County Galway. It operated until 1918. The next year, John Alcock and Arthur Whitten completed the first non-stop flight across the Atlantic. They took off on 14th June 1919 from St. John's in Newfoundland and landed the next day right next to Marconi Station, bringing with them the first transatlantic mail. On 12th to 13th of April 1928, Dublin-born pilot Captain James Fitzmaurice flew from Dublin to Newfoundland in what was the first transatlantic aircraft flight from east to west. Heritage sites. The Neolithic site of Newgrange, 3200 BCE, County Meath, is the best preserved passage grave in Europe. The monument's central room was designed to be aligned with the rising sun on the winter solstice, which makes it the oldest solar observatory in the world. A few kilometres from Newgrange, the passage grave of Knowth contains more than a third of the total number of examples of megalithic art in all of Western Europe. The Passage Tomb cemeteries in Carramore, County Sligo, are the largest group of megalithic tombs, 30 of them, in Ireland or Britain. The Seed Fields in County Mayo are the most extensive Stone Age site in the world. It contains the oldest known field systems in the world, 6,000 years old, as well as Europe's largest stone enclosure, 77 kilometres. The Hill of Usnech in County Westmeath marked the traditional centre of Ireland, although it lies 20 kilometres away from the true geographic centre of Ireland, just south of Athlone. The location of this 182-metre tall hill is exceptional in the fact that 22 counties, 2/3 of Ireland, can be seen from the top. In medieval times, the hill was the site of the main bonfire of the Beltane Festival, the 1st of May, symbolising the beginning of summer. Until the 11th century, the Hill of Tara, near Navan, County Meath, was the seat of the High Kings of Ireland, the country's political and spiritual capital, as well as the hub of Ireland's ancient road network. In 1854, 3 workmen clearing the way for the Ennis railway line stumbled across the remains of the late Bronze Age Mugan Hill Fort, which turned out to be the largest hill fort in Ireland. On the site was a stone box preserved the traditional Celtic organisation of society based on tribes and clans. The absence of feudalism means that there were no serfs but slaves. Ireland was one of the last European nations to abolish slavery of its own people, as opposed to slaves imported from abroad. The land in Ireland was not suitable for grain agriculture, except a small part in the southeast, until the introduction of modern machinery and fertilizers in the 20th century. This is the main reason why the potato became the staple food from the early 17th century onwards. Before that, the Irish relied mostly on stock breeding, probably since the Proto-Celts, descending from the Indo-Europeans from the Pontic steppes, settled on the island around 2000 BC. The black Kerry cattle, thought to be descended from the Celtic Shorthorn, was brought by the continental Celts to Ireland around 2000 BCE. The Irish are now some of the most fervently Catholic Europeans, along with the Poles, yet Ireland was the last Western European country to adopt Catholicism. Until the 15th century, the Irish belonged to the Celtic Church, and Mass was universally given in Gaelic, not Latin, as was the norm then. Ironically, the Irish joined the Roman Catholic Church at the time when Henry VIII founded the Anglican Church, independent from Rome. Erected from 1729, the Irish Houses of Parliament was the world's first purpose-built two-chamber Parliament House. It now houses the headquarters of the Bank of Ireland. Founded in 1745, the Rotunda Hospital in Dublin is the world's oldest continually operating maternity hospital. In the late 18th century, Cork was the largest exporter of butter in the world, mostly to Britain and the British Empire. The Union Jack was flown for the very first time in Dublin on the 1st of January 1801 to herald the union of Great Britain and Ireland. The term boycott comes from Captain Charles Boycott, 1832 to 1897, the land agent of an absentee landlord from Ulster. In 1880, after refusing to reduce the rents of his employer's tenants, the Irish Land League decided to stop dealing with him. The whole community began to ostracize him, to the point where even shops refused to serve him. The Times of London quickly came to use his name as a term for organised isolation, and the word entered the English language. The world's first suburban commuter railway opened between Dublin and Dunleary in 1834, 2 years before the London and Greenwich Railway. On 9th July 1939, the Pan Am Clipper 3 left Botwood, Newfoundland, and landed the next day at Foynes, County Limerick. It was the first direct commercial passenger flight from America to Europe. For the next 3 years, the village of Foynes became the busiest civilian airport in the world, serving most flights from North America to Europe. Humphrey Bogart, Ernest Hemingway, John F. Kennedy, and Eleanor Roosevelt Foynes Airport during World War II. Irish coffee is said to have been invented at Foynes in 1942 to cheer up passengers after a Pan Am flying boat was forced to turn back due to bad weather conditions. This golden age is commemorated in the Foynes Flying Boat Museum on the site of the old airport. In 1942, Shannon Airport replaced Foynes as the gateway to America. It is also in Shannon that the world's first duty-free opened on 21st of April 1947. It served as a model for other duty-free facilities worldwide. Irish people around the world. It is estimated that over 80 million people of Irish descent live outside Ireland in countries such as the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Argentina, New Zealand, Mexico, South Africa, and states of the Caribbean and continental Europe. This is 14 times more than the population of Ireland, including Northern Ireland itself. 3 million of these immigrants still hold Irish nationality. Roughly 34 million Americans reported Irish ancestry in the 2000 US Census, which makes it the second largest ethnic